Welcome, everybody, to Market Pulse Q4 2025, hosted by Product Leader Academy. My name is Oscar Ibars, founder of Product Leader Academy. Very happy to have you here, and a very special guest, Daniel Samper. Daniel is a colleague and collaborative partner in Product Leader Academy as our resident recruiter. I won't take any thunder away from Danny in his intro, but again, Danny, thank you very much for being here and for sharing your insights on the overall market, particularly within tech.
Thank you, Oscar, for that intro. I'm very pleased to be here and be part of Product Leader Academy. Like Oscar mentioned, I am a technical recruiter. I've been doing it for about 6 years now. My current title is Principal Recruiter at Dice, one of the largest job platforms for technology. Most of my experience is in the US, but I've been living in Medellin, Colombia for the last 3 years. So I've had a good glimpse into what the LATAM market has to provide. I think everyone has a different reason of being here, but to provide any insight or knowledge that I can add in order for everyone here to have a better future. At the end of the day, anyone can do a market pulse, but you'll see why Product Leader Academy is doing it in this format and how it ties into having that better alignment with the market. Before I start, I wanted to mention a big takeaway from Q4. Most enterprise companies, about 70 to 80%, are doing budget renewals. We should see an uptick in hiring, especially in October and November, probably slowing down around the holidays. This is a takeaway within the US market that most people should be aware of. Without further ado, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Product management hiring trends will be our focus today. We are going to look at the US market, specializing in product management with a significant focus on AI. As we know, the US is the leading spender in capital as far as AI is considered. So jobs will be funneling in there to start. 62% of product manager job posts now mention AI familiarity. What does that necessarily mean? I don't want to just put statistics here and read them off, but how we can understand those and apply those to land better jobs, keep up with the market, understand trends. So what that means for me is now AI is almost a baseline literacy. There's levels to it, right? I see where you can understand how to do a chat GPT prompt, B, understand how to implement automation workflows, C, understand how to measure those results. So there are levels to AI literacy and AI impact as well. That is one topic I really want to jump into: AI interest versus AI impact. There is all this fuss about what is AI, and it definitely has the money behind it, but what is the impact? What is the productivity? What is the efficiency? What this means to me and how it ties into Product Leader Academy is that not only are we going to see AI requested in job descriptions and being used on a daily basis, but also use cases. How can you show that you know what AI means and what impact it created? Without having that experience and them asking for it, we go back to a chicken and egg situation where if you're not able to use ChatGPT APIs, LangChain, different Zapier softwares that show productivity, efficiency, and what impact you created, people are going to be left behind. Moving on, hybrid versus on-site demand is arising as companies push return to office. I don't want to jump into the debate whether it's smarter to have hybrid, on-site, or remote work. That is in the employer's hands. And what we've been seeing from executives and employers is that they're pushing for on-site, whether it be for accountability, innovation, and being able to bounce ideas off of each other. At the end of the day, it is happening and is not something we can avoid. As a recruiter, what does that tell me? Not only have I been seeing that within my jobs and can attest to that being part of the truth, I can also say that if you're looking for a remote job, expect high competition. If there's way less remote possibilities and way more supply for it as far as the candidate pool, then that's where you're going to be running into a lot of competition. I would say the best way to advertise yourself nowadays is remote, but you do have a lot of flexibility when it comes to your local market. Trying to get reintroduced to your local market in case you've been working remote these last few years is definitely somewhere we can apply this and end up having great results to create opportunities in the future. Just to put some numbers to it, remote roles are shrinking. Only 22% of product roles openings are remote versus 46 in 2022. So that's already gone down by more than half. 1 in 5 chance that it's going to be a remote role. And even then, to say that the remote role is US based, it might be nearshore, it might be offshore. So just to attest to that point, they're only going to look at the people who have really high value. How can you show that you're worthy of being that remote hire? And to me, that is by doing use cases like we do in Product Leader Academy, by showing the impact, using the tools that are desired, and then being ultimately that one person out of 10 resumes that has a portfolio attached to it with true significant impact of what that candidate can do for you. AI product manager titles up 130% year to year. So what does that mean? Like I mentioned in AI literacy, this is not just hype. This is here to stay. We're seeing an uptick in titles. We're seeing an uptick in job descriptions, including AI familiarity. At the end of the day, it's about having dedicated AI ownership roles. They want to see someone who's able to not only understand when AI needs to be implied, but how it's implemented and what results it attained. Long story short, we have to get with the wave. Right now, AI product manager is definitely something that I would adjust to. If you're using AI in your current role right now, it might be something that you want to edit on your resume or LinkedIn profile, but definitely expect those to be the titles that are coming out in the future and how to adjust to that properly. Right now, as far as the market is considered, it's only a 5% decrease in product management roles as of this year versus last year. Software has been down 15%, but since 2020, we're looking at a 40% decrease. Technical roles aren't being sought out as much. If you know Java or different applications, but are general, that is not something that will highlight you as a valuable person in the market right now, unless you know a very niche technology or are someone functional who can operate in a technical space. Anyone who can code but also do product management is sought out. Anyone who does product management who can also code is sought out. I would expect software roles to continue to decrease and product roles should remain stagnant. We don't have a very grim outlook as far as product is considered, but at the same time, the competition is increasing. The unemployment rate in tech right now in the US is around 3%, but around 6% for junior roles, and more junior roles are coming. Just be able to establish yourself on the market with priority versus what's already been seen. Moving on. So PM market rates and who's hiring. Taken from Glassdoor, mid-level PMs are between 120K and 160K. Senior PMs are between 170K and 220K. I can attest that as a recruiter, I do not see this. Mid-level PMs may be close. I've been seeing anywhere as low as 100K to 150K on the high end. So 120K to 160K does not seem too off. As far as the senior roles are concerned, I usually see anywhere between 150K to 180K, with 200K being on the upside. This is definitely a concept versus reality. I can attest that this is maybe what's being said on the market. I usually do East Coast roles, so potentially the West Coast roles can increase the median average here. But it is something to note that if you're going into the market and expecting these types of rates, it's not necessarily what I've been seeing. I've been seeing more 120 to 130 as a baseline or an average for mid-level, and 150 to 170 as an average for senior PMs. I've seen for enterprise companies, teams that used to be 5 to 10 product managers per division are now just 1 to 3, as well as offshoring and nearshoring. We'll attest to offshoring a little bit later and what changes we've seen there in Q4 this year. But I do want to note that as a recruiter, this does not fall parallel to what I've been seeing. The people who are making this may be the top candidates in the market. Big tech and SaaS firms are definitely the ones who are in highest demand. So that can show you how these rates are strongly attached to big tech, where a lot of mid-sized and smaller companies, startups, hold a lot of the hiring capacity. Big tech is mainly the ones who have had the stable hiring capacity. So that's definitely something to look at. And we'll also look at exactly how that breaks down into which industry and verticals are hiring the most and which have stability and which have risk versus reward. Contract PMs are around 70 to 95 an hour. This is something I wanted to touch upon. When it is considered full-time roles right now, the contingent workforce has increased over 10%. People are looking for more fractional and specialized work. At the end of the day, executives need to lower operational costs as well as compliance and liability. Contracts are starting to be more prevalent on the market. This is definitely something that I would suggest as a recruiter. I hear from people, some really prefer something stable, full time with benefits versus contract work. Seeing how the market is turning, that might be something to look into. And for those who already been doing contract work, look for more popping up in the near future. At the end of the day, I do believe that this is something that will hit in the future. This is my opinion, but I do believe that more specialized and fractional work will come to play under 40 hours a week. People are now representing themselves as their own consultants, doing project based work and having the speed and flexibility that those executives demand. To reiterate the heavy point, 28% of new product management contracts are AI related. As far as new roles, that's exactly where I would expect them to come from. Mobile web is not something that we've been seeing as recruiters lately. It has all been AI, data related, machine learning. So that is definitely where the career pivot, if anyone has been more on the commerce side, I would suggest not necessarily that that side is over with, but if you're looking to join the wave of what's to come, this is what we're looking at. I wanted to dive a little deeper into who's hiring and what they're hiring for. AI startups and cloud SaaS companies are definitely the highest risk and reward. That's where you can see equity plans, higher salaries, but it does come with risks. A lot of them have not had the tenure that some other people look for as far as stability. That's where I would mainly gear towards either fintech or health tech. Financial services and healthcare have always been around, will always be around, and how we're integrating technology with them would be more of the stable bet as far as looking for longer term employment in that sense. Moving on. AI is here to stay. Here's some trends that we're seeing. AI interest versus AI impact. These first will be towards interest, and you will see how the last one here will be towards the impact and how we can generate and bridge that gap. So agentic AI has been up 87% year over year. These have been taking over SaaS companies as well. Companies have been looking into setting up automated workflows and have been putting their budgets towards that area. This comes into the AI interest aspect. To support those agentic softwares and AI, they also have to build hardware. Something very relevant is that we have 418 billion in spend as far as data centers are considered. Oracle is deeply involved with OpenAI as well as other big AI companies on the market in order to open those types of data centers. That does not necessarily pertain to product, but it's something to note as far as where money is being invested. 71% of enterprises increase their AI and ML budgets. This is the biggest indicator of AI interest. At the end of the day, people are investing in it. That's where the jobs are going and the budget is increasing. This is where the wave is following. Long story short, this is where product leaders come into play and where many companies will face risk versus reward. Only 37% of companies have reported measurable productivity. AI interest versus AI impact. What are you doing in order to create impact? Yes, you can be using AI software. Yes, you can explain how you're using it and sound fancy, but at the end of the day, if you're not creating general impact, whether it be saving time, saving money, or increasing revenue, most people are not going to be interested in the results. As people in the community and as product managers, we have to be able to relay those insights, but also show that measurable productivity and impact. This is definitely something that we can pause on for a second, take some screenshots in case you're watching later. This is what I've seen not only from job descriptions for product managers, but also talking to different product managers in the market. What they're seeing are different tools, a list of tools that I've come up with and show exactly what they pertain to, whether it be productivity, documentation, research, or building the product. These are definitely things, not saying that as a product manager, you need to learn how to code or use every one of these. But as you can see already, there are a lot of names, probably some that you are familiar with, some that you are not. And AI is changing every day. I'm using AI tools. What does that mean? Oh, I'm using Claude for my productivity with Notion AI. I am using Amplitude and Perplexity to do research for UX, and we are building it within OpenAI API and LangChain in order to create an established product. Moving on, but this is definitely a very, very important slide. I don't want to skip over how important it is to understand what tools are being used and for what and how much success they're bringing. Speaking to offshore and nearshore, this year we saw a heavy impact change with the new H-1B policy passed in September. It is now, instead of $10,000 per sponsorship, up to $100,000. What does that necessarily mean? I can't give you a result right now. It has been a pause. Everyone is kind of seeing where the dust settles. There have not been any effects to renewals or transfers, so anyone currently in the process has not been affected. We have definitely been seeing a pause in new hires, especially from startups. We can see that 39% of startups have cut back with international hiring. The H-1B policy was an easy way of getting excellent talent offshore at a discounted price. So right now, the biggest thing we've seen is just a pause in that type of talent. Nearshore has definitely upticked as they are not going through US labor laws. They are only going through different compliance as far as EOR and contractor record. Everything has paused where most people don't necessarily know what is going to happen, but want to see how that affects every company, whether it be from small to enterprise, mid-sized to enterprise. And who is it going to affect the most? H-1B heavy states, including California, Texas, New Jersey, Washington. What I can say is that there should be more opportunity for onshore and nearshore resources with a pause to offshore resources, especially those considering bringing high technical talent at low prices. Definitely more to come on this topic. I do believe it's going to shift the market, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and predict the future, as right now we've seen more of a pause than a change. Biggest takeaways: AI impact, AI interest. We have product and AI skills. You can not only be a product manager or only have AI skills. Everything is being married into one, with AI literacy being a new baseline. H-1B shifts, like we said, it could reshape future hiring. Right now we are at a pause, but should see an uptick in onshore and nearshore roles. Remote roles are drying up. Have your expectations set clearly as to what your area has to offer if they have remote roles and what the competition looks like for those. And last but not least, things do not look bad. We're doing well, but everyone needs to upskill using Courses like Product Leader Academy, where you not only have use cases that show you know how to use AI, implement AI, but measure AI as well. That should conclude the presentation for Q4.
Thank you very much, Danny. That was incredibly deep and insightful for all of us. We have some questions here in the live Q&A. Andres asked first, considering we were speaking about hybrid on-site demand, to your first point, what regions of the US are we seeing the most PM opportunities? I'm currently in South Florida.
For the most part, I am seeing opportunities in South Florida, New York, California. I thought Texas was going to be a new tech hub in the United States and was getting that type of hype behind it back in 2022, 2023. I've been seeing Midwest, West, Northeast, but to be more specific, New York, South Florida, California are the top three places. Let me know if you want to be more specific on this.
And just to confirm, Danny, you mentioned that those were for broad recs or specifically for remote only or otherwise on-site hybrid demand.
For remote only, I am seeing New York and California being the major players that offer that. At the end of the day, it usually leads to budget or how much demand you can have. As far as on-site roles are considered, it's a mixed bag between all the states. As long as you're closer to a tech hub, you probably have a decent shot at landing an opportunity. But I wouldn't be looking at anywhere that's rural or small market.
Next question from Amaya. Do you see a trend or think companies are reducing entry-level PM openings in favor of AI blended analyst roles and using those as stepping stones into PM?
That's a great question. I can tell you from my personal experience, 50%, depending on the executive. I've heard some say they'd rather just have senior folks and then use either offshore or automation to bridge the gap for easier tasks, the manual tasks. I've also seen an uptick on the other side where people are keying on junior roles to have a smaller barrier of entry in terms of budget and then deeply push into career growth, training. Usually it depends if a company has had a good experience offshore or near shore. If they have, then they like to use those type of cost-effective resources. If they haven't, they like to go with junior resources. The only way of really knowing that know-how is having recruiters or friends within the industry who understand what vendors they've used before or what type of hiring strategies they have internally.
Excellent. Excellent, Danny. Another question from Amaya here. In this world of AI tailored resumes and hundreds of applicants for one entry level product manager role, what actually makes you stop and look twice at a candidate's application and a resume?
Man, I love these questions. I would say the one that's different to a certain extent. For me, what a recruiter usually considers like an A player resume is long tenures, stable companies, worked on bigger products, larger teams, has had, isn't just siloed to one thing, has both the functional capability, technical capability. Obviously, you can't necessarily see that all from a resume, but that's usually the initial highlight of where we go to. What would stand out in this world, especially like Amaya just alluded to? I've been seeing a lot more resumes looking picture perfect. What I can attest to is if someone explains it to me in a way where I can read your resume, know that you didn't use AI to create it, maybe for structure and for formatting, but as far as the content is considered, if I can read what you did, how you did it, and what impact it created, that's going to be an initial step that sets you across. As easy as that sounds, or as basic as that sounds, a lot of people don't know how to convey that. And it's also seeing it either in a technical capacity. I implemented microservices within a website in order to reduce time. At the end of the day, someone has to understand it. And I don't want to have a headache reading a resume, and neither does a hiring manager. Lastly, the candidate doesn't want to keep jumping through hurdles and having to do more to prove themselves, but That's what we have to do. If someone has a portfolio, if someone shows me what they've done, not just told me what they've done, that's different. I'm going to look at that.
That's an excellent point. Danny, I got a question on that. As an entry level, how do we break through that noise? Is it bringing in the classroom or class experiences forward? Is it that portfolio comment that you just mentioned, particularly for that audience?
Unfortunately, unless someone has a personal or professional connection, I believe as a junior, you have to go above and beyond, whether that be having a portfolio, doing more on your resume, or taking lower budget, salary, having flexibility in location or job title. At the end of the day, as a junior in this market, you're going to have to go above and beyond in presenting yourself or just your expectations.
Danny, thank you. I think this question was covered, and feel free to give me a thumbs up on chat. It was related to the immigration status changes. Do you have clarity on whether the new policy affects international students present in the US who are applying for a change of status from L up to H-1B visa?
I don't want to speak out of my rear end here and would rather look up labor laws. Right now, like I said, what I've heard, especially from people I have on contract right now, is if you're already currently enrolled within the H-1B process, there is no difference. It is more an extreme barrier of entry than trying to ruin the current process that we have in place. I wouldn't want to speak to that, Amaya, just because, stay in my lane in that one.
Fair point. And I got one last question here. Andres, of the given AI tools you said earlier, is there any recommendation you have in order to increase literacy for these tools?
Actually, yes, that's something that I didn't touch upon. Having something like Product Leader Academy where we can potentially implement those tools into your daily responsibilities. Also, taking small PM courses that integrate AI into them. Long story short, it's all about having that education and seeing which ones actually use them within application rather than just concept. Beyond Product Leader Academy, I don't have anything right now that I can suggest as a course or educational videos, but that would be my best advice, looking at what's out there that not only teaches the concepts but actually has you implementing them and applying them. Especially the biggest ones right now, you have to be able to understand OpenAI, you have to be able to understand Claude, LangChain, Zapier. I don't know, Oscar, if you want to chime in here.
Aside from our program, there are other programs. They all have a barrier to entry in terms of either technical skill or price. You might end up with a certificate program that's very comprehensive, but you're going to be paying a considerable amount. We are the only academy oriented for you to produce an artifact to add to your portfolio from the very first lesson. And that is by design. It's to get the interest of folks like Danny to perk up and say, "Oh, wow, that's different." So we really built this from the tail end backwards to what is it that we can teach our community members so that they can break through that noise, but also complement an actual skill progression. Your skill progression is from day one. So that's just from my observation in the most earnest way that I can explain it. There are many others that have more forte on deep learning or other AI, ML, more on the ML side of things. Um, Andrew Ning, everybody's taken his courses before on deeplearning.ai. That's a very popular one, and many others that you might find. Coursera also has a lot of free view only access. So if you're just looking to expand your knowledge and not looking to get a degree necessarily, there are other options out there. The key point is, as you just mentioned, Danny, is how do you, as quickly as possible, get to execution and proof rather than staying within this sandbox environment of education or over academic approach to learning product management and actual skills. Go apply it, go learn as quickly as possible through that application. You will not get it right, and that's by design because that's how you learn. You learn how to ride that bike by falling off of it 8 times until you figure out, oh wow, I got to balance and I got to move the pedals at the same time. You'll not learn to ride a bike by reading a book about how to ride a bike.
Exactly. And to add on to that, how can you also show them that you know how to ride a bike? I want to make sure you nail not just concept, but application. Andres, we don't want to toot our own horn, but that's the whole reason why I joined Oscar, why I joined this initiative. I streamed through resumes all day long. I wanted something that was actually going to create impact and set people apart. Doing things like this and other tangible, presentationable work is what we're looking for.
And one last question that we have here for you, Danny. When would you see a company take a chance on someone with less tenure, less product experience, say someone who was a software engineer or a QA in the past?
One of my biggest advice would be to go through the contract realm where there's less of a barrier of entry in contract work versus product work. Also, someone who can attest to your skills. Maybe contact the product manager you were working for as a software engineer or as a QA and have them write a letter of recommendation on how you affected the team. At the end of the day, everyone can learn how to be a product person, a software engineer, or QA, but how have you applied it in experience and shown that you're different than the next person? So for the most part, there is no black or white answer for this, Andres. I would create a resume that is as product focused as possible. Like I said, I would reach out to anyone who has seen you within a product capacity, since that is already demonstratable experience that you've proven yourself. And also reach out to me one on one. Let me see how I can help you because every situation is different.
Wonderful. That concludes all the Q&A. Danny, thanks so much for walking us through and giving us a viewpoint that was incredibly insightful. What does that mean in a practical sense for us landing these jobs? What can we take away? What can we actually do today to improve our candidacy, improve our chances of landing these highly sought after roles in product management? So thank you very much for putting this together for us. We look forward to the next one, and we hope you join us.
Thank you, brother. I wanted to make sure that anything I say here can lead to a better future and can lead to more opportunity for anyone who's listening. And I appreciate you having me.
Wonderful. At Product Leader Academy, we're all about proof over paper. It's about proving that you have the execution skills and the capabilities to demonstrate to your next employer or client that you do know how to do what you say you can do on paper. If you're looking to develop those skills further, look no further than Product Leader Academy. We have a community where you can take our first module for free and engage with product leaders like myself, others in the enterprise, and key players like Daniel Samper in the recruiting world so you can find and land your next gig.